What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning in. My name's Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from beautiful Budapest, Hungary, with my even more beautiful wife, Dennis. Say hi, boo.
Hi, everyone.
All right. So, this is episode 31 of our film series documentary reviews that we do on X. And today we're talking about Freaknik, the nastiest party, the greatest party never told, or something like that. That's the name of it. It's a Hulu documentary. It caused a lot of stir online last year when people found out that they were making a documentary about Freaknik. And then all over social media, people were like spreading memes like, oh, a lot of uncles and aunties about to get exposed, or all the people who talk bad about like modern hip hop and R&B, they're gonna be shown popping that coochie in Freaknik '94. And so, like, the documentary finally dropped, I believe, like a few days ago, and not that many people have been talking about it. And my wife and I, we're having dinner. We turned it on and just watched it all the way through. And I can say I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It's only about an hour, a minute, hour and 30, and it's good. It's a good, show. It's a good documentary. What'd you think?
Yeah, I'm looking at Freaknik t-shirts right now. I'm getting one.
Wow. Would you
No,
go to Freaknik? Would you go? Would you want to go?
hell yes.
Okay, okay. Which one though? The one in the 80s, early 90s, or like the last ones?
I think like everyone was sort of like hyping up the 94 one,
Mm-hmm.
like right before when stuff got pretty like brutal.
Yeah.
So either like 93 or 94 I would want to go.
Okay,
But
okay.
I was like 2 years old back then, so
Okay. You gonna be wearing the coochie cutters, the Daisy Dukes?
yeah, over my diaper.
Wow. Anyway,
Would
no, but
you
how'd you,
go?
would I go? I think I would. Like if I was alive around during that time, I think I would enjoy it. Yeah. I would definitely want to go with other people though. Because the whole time that they were talking about Freaknik, I was like, how come nobody got their car robbed? Nobody got like jacked? None of that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it was like all college students. Everyone is poor.
Mm,
So, like everyone is just having fun. And that was like the first years of it, which looked really fun. But
yeah,
which
yeah.
year would you want to go?
I want to say the 80s one. I kind of want to go to the more boring, chill one. You get what I'm saying? 94 was maybe even a bit too loose. That's how I'm feeling. But
Okay.
what'd you think? What'd you think of the show?
I liked the documentary. It was good. They had like some old like, stars in it. And yeah, it was cool and I really like all the, footage that they have from the actual like all of the Freakniks,
Yeah, some of the
because
footage
that
was
was pretty
hilarious.
cool that like everyone that had a camera back then was like pulling up with their camera to Freaknik, so
Yeah.
they had like a lot of footage there that was really good.
Yeah, some of the footage was absolutely flat out hilarious. Like, there's a guy in the film. He looks at the camera and says, "Hey, this your granddaddy balling at Freaknik." You're like, what? How did you know the future, my boy? How did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what do you like as a woman? Like, do you feel like these sorts of parties are like empowering or just fun, or it's not worth, dissecting it like that? Because on one hand, like a lot of the film is just girls twerking, 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 and they see the camera and they start twerking. Like, as a woman, how did you feel about that?
I'm talking like for myself. I love twerking and I love dancing and I love wearing sexy stuff, to go to events like this.
Mm,
So, unless like my boundaries are not crossed and I can do whatever I want in terms of just like being myself,
yeah.
it's great and I like it. And it's like, I feel like what they were talking about, like during like early 90s, like
Hmm.
until up until 94, it was
Hmm.
like a sexual liberation
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for women, because everyone was admiring their beauty and their sexiness and all of that. So for me, that's cool. But
Hmm.
there's a thin line where, like, if I'm being groped unwantedly and stuff like that, then that's where the problem starts.
Right, right, right. Okay, okay. And since I've met you, you've been twerking, so I believe you. I know that you would probably enjoy
Yeah.
it. But yeah, let's walk through this doc a bit. By the way, Matt Villainy jumped into the chat. He's going to be our special guest for tomorrow's episode when we review the creator. So shout out to him. Mum is the word from me. I don't know what you mean by that, Matt Villainy. Are you like not a fan of Freaknik? Did you not want to see it? Like, is this like a bad film to review? Like, expound on that. But either way, let's walk through this doc. So basically, it's not that much to talk about, but Freaknik started, as they say in this film, like, in Atlanta. And Atlanta has like, a very large black middle class population and professional class, unlike a lot of other cities where we're in the minority and we're sort of at the bottom. Like in Atlanta, you have black cops, black, judges, black mayors, and, there are white people there, but the majority of the city is pretty black. So, like, black people have political power. Meanwhile, like, white people have like all the economic power. It's like South Africa or something like that. And so, like, in the beginning of this movie, they're talking about, all these historically black colleges like Morehouse and Spelman, and how all the kids there during spring break, they didn't have money to go like back home to where they came from, the different states and stuff. So they ended up staying there, and they ended up, having a big picnic, which was interesting that they, decided to use picnic because one of the ladies there said we shouldn't even use the word picnic. And I don't know if you caught that. Did you catch that, Acty?
No. Why did she say that?
She said that, well, the reason is the word picnic derives from like when they used to lynch us. The word was like we're gonna pick a nigga to lynch, and like they would lynch us and then have like food out there, lay out the blankets, and like watch a black man get strung up on a tree. So that's where
Wow.
the word like picnic comes from.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark. You want to go on a picnic?
Not now. I'm gonna make a new word for it.
I know, right?
Park
A
brunch.
park brunch. That actually sounds fancier.
Brunch. That's my new word.
Brunch.
Brunch. Park brunch. Brunch.
Copyright, trademark. But yeah, what did you think about the opening when they're like describing Atlanta, these kids, everything like that? What did you think?
Yeah, I like that they were like, talking about the scene in Atlanta, like how it was, and it's nice to see, um, just black people living their lives and contributing to the history. And
Mm-hmm.
I really like, the way that it's started, like these just, college kids, and they were like, oh, we can't go anywhere because it's a party and everyone is like gonna go party, so let's just create our own party
Yeah,
in our own backyard,
yeah, yeah.
basically. And that was like pretty cool because for me also, like, I had a month break in this term,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone was like going all of these places in Europe and stuff like that, and I couldn't really go. I did go, like, but for a short time, and everyone was just like traveling and stuff. So I was thinking like, oh, it would be so great, like if something like that happened in Budapest too, like
Mm-hmm.
only for international students.
Mm,
So I
mm.
was like, also, it was relatable too. Like, let's have a party in our backyard.
Uh-oh. Are you gonna bring Freaknik to Budapest?
Why not?
That'd be hilarious. Freaknik in Budapest. This is the wildest place for it to pop up at. Because we went to a Budapest party. They can barely dance, and the music would be horrible.
Yeah, but it's not for the Hungarians, baby.
Okay.
It's for all the Arabs, all the Africans, all the Turkish people, all the, I don't know, all the people from the Middle East and stuff like that. And yeah, we
Okay.
just do a bunch of halai, bunch of ethnic dances.
Oh wow, wow.
Everyone brings hummus, like that.
A lot of titty shimmying and like hand waving.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool to see black people in this environment that is not hostile to our life and stuff like that. And in the beginning of the movie, they talk about how like other college kids, predominantly white college kids, they go to like Daytona Beach and other cities in Florida, and they get ratchet and stuff like that. And I like how in this documentary they didn't focus on like black pain so much because like they didn't mention it, but it's understood like, okay, if a bunch of black kids go to Daytona, they're not going to have as good of a time because the police are going to harass them. Other college kids might be racist towards them and stuff like that. So in this case, these kids are like, you know what, we want a safe space for us to be free and for us to have fun in the park and listen to our music and also be in a city where the cops don't just assume we're going to be, you know, troublemakers because we're black kids, because they're black too and stuff like that. So it was cool to see that. It was very cool how they like set it all up. And, you know, shout out to those kids for making history too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the founders were like from the DC State Club, from I believe like Morehouse College or Spelman or something like that, and they organized this picnic in the 80s. And as they describe it in the 80s, it's not like the Freaknik in the 90s where it's like twerking and booty shorts and Uncle Luke playing and stuff like that. It's like a cookout. It's just a regular cookout. They're selling like, you know, hot dogs, hamburgers, and T-shirts and stuff like that. The name for Freaknik came from a Chic song called "Freak Out." Dun, 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 she dun. Freak Out. You know that song?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard it.
yeah. As soon as they come on, I was like, oh yeah, everybody knows that song, right? So yeah, they that's where it all came from. And then like later on, like as the '90s roll around, more college kids start coming from different places, uh, and like they're driving there. And you know what? I this was the part of the movie when I realized, okay, this is where it's gonna get fucked up because when you got a bunch of cars in an American city, traffic jams happen. There's like no good public transport. I was like, I know what's about to happen. Like Freaknik's about to get turned into like, you know, just congestion. But anyway, what did you think of like the '90s Freaknik era?
Yeah, I think like a lot of trouble came from the traffic rather than like people being horny and stuff like that because yeah, like everyone was like it was a bit more sexual, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
after the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And but like still nothing really happened. Like there was no atrocities or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like just the big problem was the traffic.
Yeah.
And like yeah, I can relate to that, and it felt frustrating. But the thing is like also even then with all the traffic that was happening, people were like partying during the traffic. Like people getting out of their cars, blasting music from their cars, twerking on top of like the cars and stuff like that. So even like the traffic looked fun. And yeah, it was still dope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like also this was the time where like artists started to refer to it, or they were talking about it in like different TV shows. It was on the news.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Atlanta music scene was sort of like getting involved in Freaknik, and
Mm.
also taking advantage of Freaknik a little bit to like make their music be heard,
Yeah.
which was like dope. It's like it was like you see like this beginning of this era from Atlanta, like starting from Atlanta. And yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, yeah. That part when they were partying in the streets, like jumping on the cars and, you know, twerking in the highway and stuff like that. It reminded me of this one time when I was in college, for, I think sophomore year or junior year or something like that. I had my little car, like my Nissan Xterra, and I was in the car with my, you know, girlfriend and like three of her homegirls. And my girlfriend was wild. She was like, I just want to party. I just feel some energy right now. And we were like at a stoplight, and she just gets out and starts dancing, like twerking, like not like Freaknik twerking, but she's just like dancing to the music. We're all like get back in the car, girl. Like, what are you doing? And the light turned green. She's still dancing, and then she eventually get in. I'll never forget that. And that's what reminded me of that in the film. Have you ever had like any crazy party moments, like anything we saw in the Freaknik movie?
I mean, I went to like during like my late high school years, and also like first years of college. I went to a lot of festivals in Turkey, but obviously, as you can imagine, being like a uh, country, we don't have like stuff like Freaknik.
Mm,
I mean, people are still young and they're still horny, but none of that stuff happens like out, out in the open.
mm,
But I don't know. I used to have like we used to go to almost every festival in Izmir when I was living there.
mm,
And it wasn't like a weekend or for a week, but it was just for that night.
mm,
And a bunch of like the most popular like artists would come out. maybe some rappers, maybe some like rock bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we just used to like go there, and it's most of the times it would be somewhere far away because they need like that big arena sort of
Mm.
like place, and those places are outside of the city. So we would like, take the bus there, and then it would end very late at night. So we would hitchhike from
Wow.
the festival grounds, like, whichever car we can hop on. And like, I remember one time it was like six of us, and we got into this like small car, and we were just like on top of each other. And yeah, I mean, it's always fun. Festivals are fun.
Yeah, we have a video like that on our channel for anybody who's listening. It's just type in like, Istanbul Music Festival or Bilgi University like music festival. We were at one and it was cool, but it was more like it's like a concert more than like a Freaknik type festival. And then
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
imagine like you went to, right?
Yeah, yeah, like yeah, exactly like that. It's more like a, yeah, concert, like a bunch of people. It's more like a festival and not like a party.
Yeah.
And I feel like Freaknik sort of like mashed up party and festival together.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
even in the beginning they didn't have any like artists that were like performing there. It
Uh,
sort of started later.
Well, I think around 92 or 93, they showed like videos of like
Yeah.
Biggie Smalls there performing and like Jermaine Dupri's artists performing at Freaknik in the park and stuff like that, which was cool. But it wasn't like a concert. It was more like a big, like they said, a picnic. They were all supposed to meet at the park and have fun and play music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, you know, it would be good for Turkey to have like a Freaknik type event, or do you think people wouldn't even want to go because of like, the judgment and stuff like that people might have if, guys are like taking their shirts off and girls are twerking? Like, do you think that would even go down in Turkey? Like, would people actually want it if it was allowed, or what do you think?
I think if it was normalized, yeah, like young people would go. I don't think I would go now, to be honest, but I don't know. It depends on like also which artists are like showing up and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I think it would be fun,
Yeah.
and I feel like young people would go, but I just don't see that happening now with all of the, environment in Turkey, and
Hmm.
just like the traditions and all the taboos
Hmm.
and stuff like that.
Are you saying you wouldn't go now because like people would have like cell phones and like social media and stuff like that?
I just feel like people younger than me would go.
Ah.
So I would feel like a grandma or something. But I don't know, maybe if it's like, maybe it's a bit more mixed. Because like
Hmm.
the last concert that I went to with you in Istanbul, it was sort of like old, like younger people.
Hmm. I think it
So
was
yeah.
people in your university though, like, and you were in the same age as them, and at that time you were like 23, 24.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. But yeah, I don't know.
Right,
I
right.
feel like maybe now it would be like more like maybe like high school, last year high school students and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So maybe that's why, but it would be cool. I just
yeah.
don't, I just cannot like imagine it in the environment right now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Matt Villainy jumped into the comments. He said, "I only mean some women are recreational use only. Can't turn a hoe into a housewife." I don't know where he's going with that. I don't know where we started off with that, but I mean, the girls there. I mean, they some of them might be our aunties now. You get what I'm saying? Like they were showing a lot of women, and to keep it real, in the movie, like not all the girls were wearing like booty shorts. Like you did see a lot of ass, but that's because there's just a lot of ass in Atlanta. But like some of them were
Yeah.
just wearing like regular jeans, regular looking skirts, dresses, stuff like that. But then like a few of them, were popping it open with the coochie cutters and the Daisy Dukes and letting it all fly. But you want to jump on that?
Yeah, I think that there was like one part, and someone was like talking about what type of people were going to Freaknik,
Hmm.
and they were saying like, okay, so yeah, we have like this one category where people are sort of like, horny and they want to meet other people and stuff like that. So that's like one category, but then there are also just people who just go there to chill
Yeah, yeah.
and have fun, and just see that like black culture being exercised, and black excellence and all of that.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
feel like especially in the beginning, it was more like a very chill place to be
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than like insanely partying.
Yeah, yeah. Going back to the film, like they started talking about the fashion trends and like how the guys were coming there with like, J's on and different sorts of clothes. And like if you look at the photos of the different years of Freaknik, it's like a timeline of like fashion for black young people. And yeah, they were also describing like what the girls were wearing and what sort of cars they were driving, like the Suzuki Samurais, which actually looks like a pretty sick car. Like if I bought a Suzuki Samurai, would you think that was cool or not?
Sure. I don't understand cars, so.
It was the car that had the drop top in the back. So it's like a mini Jeep, but it's like a low sitting car. Remember the ones where the people could, sort of party in the back?
Oh,
You get
yeah.
that one?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that would be cool.
Okay, okay. But yeah, what did you think of the fashion at the time? Because I'm gonna keep it real. Like early '90s fashion, to me, it still hasn't hit that full circle where we look back at it and say that's cool. Like '80s fashion has to some degree. Late '90s fashion, I feel like, but the early 90s with like the really baggy jeans and these like very bland looking shirts, to me it's not really hidden. And also the curved baseball caps and stuff like that. I'm just talking about for the guys. I'm not really feeling early 90s male fashion. But what do you think of all that?
I really like early 90s aesthetic. I mean, I like it before I've seen Freaknik, and also like in the festival, people show up looking their best and stuff like that. So I really like it. It's like, baggy jeans for girls as well, like you said, but like then they're wearing sort of crop tops and stuff.
Mm.
And they have, it's like accessories are like the highlight, you
Hmm.
know. And I mean the hair was crazy because they had like the long high standing like updos.
Hmm.
Yeah, the hair was crazy, but I really like it's sort of like also gym wear a little bit as well, like
Mm.
mixed with jeans and stuff like that. I really like it.
Hmm. Hmm. I think like those hairstyles, like the finger waves and the high up hairdos of that era, it's like very associated with like, I hate to say this, but like very ghetto culture. Like now looking back at it, because that's how it was. That's how it's been characterized. There was a famous movie with Halle Berry called WAP, I believe. It's either called WAP or something else. I forgot the name, but she plays like a very ghetto woman with all of those styles of like that early '90s, black culture and stuff like that. But at the time, that was considered like fly, fresh, and like cool and stuff like that. And maybe it'll come back in a way. I mean, like the girls are like doing finger waves on the edges now, but they're not doing the full finger wave do's and stuff like that. So it's just different. It's like, it's not so
Hmm.
much gel nowadays. But those,
Yeah.
I grew up seeing like girls wearing that sort of hairstyle and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean, I love a good short hair. Like some people really could pull it off and make it look sexy, like Halle Berry.
Right,
And
right.
but yeah, those that was crazy because it was like one side, like one part is like straight and the other part is curly, and it's like all gelled up and it looks like a casket.
Yeah. Casket.
It was just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Matt Villain, he jumped into the comments. He dropped a meme saying, "Step into the '90s." Another thing about the '90s, like I think another thing that made Freaknik so free is like there was no social media, and like they spoke about this at the end of the movie. But like there were no. How can I say this? I feel like they spoke about how all the big ballers, like every guy who came there, brought a camera with them. But I don't think people knew the power of videos back then. Like they thought it would just be like home videos. They didn't know that this would be in a documentary years later. So people were like twerking in front of the camera, showing titties, like acting an ass. Why do you think that was? Because that's what I was thinking the entire time. Like, I could understand if there were crazy things happening at Freaknik and there were no cameras around, but people saw the camera and decided to pop the coochie open. Like, why? Why?
I don't know. I think in that era, like cameras, especially like home videotapes and stuff like that, I think they were marketed towards like creating memories. Like
Mm,
you would shoot something and this would stay with you. It's like a storage of memories and stuff like that. But today, we can basically use any device like that or even our phones to create a business
Mm,
or make an amateur movie documentary. Like you can make a whole documentary from your iPhone and
yeah.
like publish that, and it can become like a big documentary or a big movie or whatever.
Yeah.
So like and the quality we have like now, it kind of took us to that place.
Mm,
People are making money off of their like phone cameras and stuff like that, shooting
mm,
YouTube videos. So
mm-hmm.
it totally changed, and I feel like back then using a camera, just like you said, was like a home video,
Yeah.
something that you shoot and then you watch it like later at home.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but still, it was crazy. Like, why do you want to put your booty in somebody's home video?
Because it's like a nice surprise, a nice little gift.
A nice surprise. Oh, oh, man. I think also having a camera then was like a status symbol because they said the big ballers had the cameras, right? Like having buying a camera then was probably like $1,000 plus stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe they thought, okay, that's a rich boy, so let me try to get his attention. Like, you
Yeah,
know what I
I'm
mean?
pretty sure like some people bought a camera just for Freaknik.
I'm more than certain. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Speaking of bought, Jalen Rose, he's a famous basketball player. He's in this movie giving commentary, right? And I feel like they call Jalen Rose for anything. But he was talking about how he was a broke, college kid, and he liked to play dice. And he won the down payment for like a Toyota Corolla or something like that from his friend at a dice game, and then drove down from Michigan all the way to Atlanta. And this was a part of the story where they were talking about people were driving from everywhere, like all over the country, from Louisiana, Texas, Maryland, Pennsylvania, everywhere coming down. Like, what did you think about that? Like, people driving that far to go to a party.
Yeah, I mean that's when like it's a staple.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost like how it is now today with Coachella a little bit. Like
Yeah.
everyone goes there if you like, mainstream techno, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think at the time it was sort of like that. Like, when it's that time of the year, everyone stops what they're doing and they go where the fun is.
Yeah.
And it's just a place where you can like just de-stress the whole year, basically.
Yeah. 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 I definitely feel like a lot of drug dealers are coming down though. I definitely
I
feel
mean,
like
definitely, wherever you have like a festival, you're gonna have like, those people.
yeah, people were coming to like score a pack, meet the plug, and also get off one or two. You know what I mean? Stack their money out of town. I
Yeah.
definitely feel like there was a lot of trafficking going on, but hey, there was no violence associated with it. Like violence was not a part of Freaknik. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, a bunch of times they said like, no one ever really pulled out a gun or anything. Like,
Yeah,
it was just like having fun, partying, drinking, and stuff like that. But like,
yeah,
even in vanilla festivals in Turkey,
yeah.
compared to Freaknik, we have like drug dealers that are around. Like, you can find someone selling weed or stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I also knew there was some dope boys in the crowd when the old white man came in the movie, and he said, "I've never seen kids with this much cash. They're pulling out $100 bills and ordering Dom Perignon in their hotel rooms." I'm like, okay, we the dope boys are in the building.
Yeah, it
we,
was like we started as poor kids who just wanted to have a beer and barbecue.
hell yeah.
And now, like, we're staying at hotel rooms and ordering Dom Perignon.
I
So,
know, right? Like, where does money come from? We know what y'all niggas up to. Hell yeah.
but yeah, I mean, because I think because it got bigger, people wanted to spend on it. Maybe like people were saving money for it and stuff,
Mm.
you know?
Maybe, maybe. Imagine getting like a McDonald's job like over the summer, talking about I'm gonna go to Freaknik, man, and I'm gonna meet the
Yeah.
love of my life. And then you get there, and the girl's just twerking, hopping in the cars, sleeping with dude from dude. Oh man, it's just wild. What did you think of some of the guys? Because some of the people they interviewed, like some of the guys, I'm like, bro, I know you did not get no coochie at Freaknik.
I think everybody got some,
You
because
think
there were
everybody?
like a lot of people there. And I mean, guys were guys. The guys are, I don't know, always the same.
Okay.
And every guy is like, "Oh my God, have you seen the girls here?"
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like all of them are just so excited and like just they're like a kid in a candy store. And yeah, it was just guys were hilarious, and most of them looked like baby faces. You know, they had like baby faces,
Yeah, yeah,
and it was like, okay, look at you, little nerdy.
yeah. All right. By the way, Matt Villainy jumped into the comments. He said Baps. That's the name of the Halle Berry movie. I totally forgot the
Mm,
name. It's kind of a hood classic, I would say. I don't know. I watched Baps many years ago, and it was just all
okay.
right. It's a comedy. But moving on, another person in this film is Mark Lamont Hill, who's a very famous academic, PhD guy, written a lot of books, done a lot of public speaking, stuff like that. I listen to him quite often, and he was talking about how in this film, certain black people started to really hate on Freaknik because of what it started to like represent. And there was this debate about how do we present ourselves as black people. And I think this is an eternal debate that always rests in our minds, especially among black Americans. Like, okay, we have the money, we have the education. Should we always act like suited and booted and perfect, pristine people? When can we have our chance to like let our hair down? And like, is twerking and all this sort of stuff and listening to ratchet booty music from Uncle Luke from Miami, like, is this a good representation for us as a people when we're forever in this war against like white supremacy and the people who look down on us as humans and stuff like that? And I thought that was interesting how they handled that in this movie, because what he said and what the tone of the movie is that black people should have a place where we can have black joy, where we can have our version of carnival. In Brazil, every year their women dress up like goddesses with like the flowers and the colors and all that, and walk down the street naked and twerk and all that, and nobody ever talks about, oh, that's a bad representation of Brazilian women. And all the other nations in Latin America have their version of carnival too. But like when we do it in America, it's sort of like we self-criticize ourselves and say, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we twerk? Why do we listen to, nasty booty music and stuff like that? I think there needs to be a place like that. And I really like how the movie handled that too. But what did you think about that?
Yeah, sometimes I definitely think like it's maybe only Black Americans who have that sort of thing on their shoulders, that weight on them, because I feel like even Africans don't really have that sort of view of like we are representing Black people or we are representing Africa or wherever they're from in Africa. I feel like even they don't have this sort of view, but because of I guess like the trauma that Black people in the United States went through, I don't know, it reflects on it like that. But I yeah, like representation wise, I felt like in the beginning it was a good representation, like up until that last year, with everything that went down. You know, except from that year, nothing bad happened. There were no like rape incidents, there were no guns, nobody was dead. Probably some stuff got stolen because that happens because there were a lot of
Yeah,
people,
right.
but there were like no major robberies and stuff like that, is what I mean. Like
Yeah.
maybe somebody's phone got stolen or something.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I felt like that was a good representation because it was just, Black people having fun. Like you said, it was Black joy.
Right.
And shaking booty or the music that was being listened to, that was just a part of that culture.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like going back to the part where you said, like, Black Americans, we have this trauma about us, and so then therefore we're worried about the white gaze and stuff like that. I just feel like, yes, it does relate to our history and the traumatic experiences that we have. I hate to characterize it as if we have trauma. I feel like we've been through traumatic experiences, therefore we know that the stove is hot, and we know what the stakes are. And because we have a close proximity to white power, the most powerful nation on the world, that being America, the nation that does have the capacity to destroy every, living human being on the planet if they so wish, and if the right people came into power to make that happen, we know what the stakes are, and we know that what is incumbent upon us as a very chosen and special people is to be excellent. And so this battle between black excellence and our reality as human beings is the ultimate struggle within us. because we know that our duty is to elevate humanity and elevate mankind. I really truly believe this, on what we have accomplished so far as a people and what we are destined to do in our particular space. But because we're also human, we're also going to be wanting to twerk. We're also going to be wanting to party and, like, be regular human beings, be college kids, and be dumb and stuff like that. So, when the black middle class, like when the later in the movie, when, like, the Atlanta gets the Olympics, and then the city starts to crack down on them and stuff like that, and it's basically the black middle class, the bourgeoisie, who is attacking the Freaknik organizers. They're a part of. They're saying, okay, look, the whole world's eyes are going to be on Atlanta, and what do we want the world to see of black people in Atlanta? Do we want them to see booty shorts, or do we want them to see us at our absolute best? You get what I'm saying?
Mm. Yeah, but I also think that, by the way, you put it perfectly. But at the same time, I felt like Atlanta getting bigger and being recognized in the international scale was also a little bit like there was a little bit of influence, if not Freaknik, then there was definitely a lot of influence of black people raising up the city and making
Hmm.
the city better. Like, I'm
Hmm.
not going to say Freaknik was the reason that, Atlanta got recognized internationally,
Hmm.
but I think it played a role. And more than that, like, since that was like a black city, Atlanta is a black city. Obviously, black people contributed into Atlanta being as big it is, as important it is
Yeah.
now. So, like, yeah, I just felt a bit like a bit of a betrayal there between
Hmm.
the city and, like, those kids and young people and people like
Hmm.
from Atlanta and stuff like that. But I also got, like, I also, their decisions kind of made sense because, like, many people said it was like a business decision
Yeah.
rather than, like, trying to bash the event.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? And this is classic gentrification, right? A bunch of artists move into a cheap, cool neighborhood, and they develop it, make it hip. Everybody wants to go there, and then more rich people come. They buy apartments. Next thing you know, all the artists got to move out. And then what did the developers say? I didn't want to kick out Picasso. It was just a business decision, right? Like, it was a classic thing. Like, a lot of the culture of Atlanta, what did come from Freaknik and also other, black events. And then the city slowly starts to, like, crack down on these events, when bigger money comes, right? Because what do you care more about? The $20 million made on a Freaknik weekend, or the $2 billion that will be made during the Olympics? And then they say, I'm sorry, but it's just business. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and definitely, like, also thinking about, like, the crimes that started to happen, or like they were talking about, like, this sexual assault incident and stuff like that. I feel like people from Atlanta who go or who went to Freaknik probably wouldn't do those things because they are also thinking, like, we're representing our city.
Mm.
And, like, you don't really want to, it's that saying, like, you don't want to shit where you live or something like that.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
want to
yeah,
shit where you eat,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So maybe in the mindset of, like, people coming from other places, they might be thinking, okay, like, if I do something here, probably I can get away with it because I'm gonna go back tomorrow. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? So I don't feel like it was the fault of Atlanta, Atlanta people,
ATLians as outcasts.
ATLians. Okay.
Exactly. ATLians. That's right.
So yeah, that's why I felt like it was like a betrayal for people who actually lived there.
Yeah. No, that's a big fact. Like all the British people who go to your hometown in Marmaris, right?
Hmm.
Like they go there every year, get drunk, wasted, do stupid stuff,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
leave
because,
country.
like, they have the mindset of, okay, I'm on a holiday, I'm spending money, and I can probably get away with, like, whatever I do because they're just gonna think I'm a stupid tourist or something,
Exactly.
the very most.
Yeah, the very most. But it doesn't make sense though. Like imagine saying, okay, all my girlfriends, we gonna hop in the car, we leave in Miami, we're going to Atlanta for Freaknik, we gonna twerk in front of every camera we see, and then go back and then go back and act like nothing happened. We
No,
going
it makes sense. And there was a girl who was talking about that in the
yeah.
beginning, and she was saying, like, there are some things that I can't do in my hometown because it's not, people are going to talk about it. Neighborhood
Mhm.
is going to know about it and stuff like that. So she has the opportunity to come to another city, twerk as much as she wants, possibly sleep with people and sleep around and all of those things, or I don't know, do drugs or drink a lot, whatever, like that is deemed bad in your own town or own like house.
Yeah.
You can like let it loose in there,
Hmm.
and that's what like most people do.
Right, right, right. I'm just saying, like, you're just gonna get a train ran on you in a Motel 6 with the
Yeah, and
camera
then you're
on.
gonna go back and you're gonna be like, Daddy, I had the best time ever.
Wow, that's wild. That's wild.
That's
Uh,
the struggle of being a little girl in a household.
okay.
Everyone is worried about like your purity and all of that, so you got
Hmm.
to do that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. But moving on in the story, basically, Atlanta gets the 96 Olympics. The city starts cleaning the place up. They rename Freaknik to the Black City College Spring Break, whatever. And when Freaknik happens, a lot of people who used to attend the earlier Freaknik say that they're not coming because the traffic is too crazy. Some people do come to like the 96 or 97 Freaknik, I forgot, but the police basically closed off the exits on the highway. So basically, if you were on the highway, you couldn't leave, and if you were in the city, you couldn't get on the highway either. You know what I mean? So it was just a wild situation. It seemed like the city was just basically trying to make these people go in a big long car circle, and nobody could have fun. They were stuck in there for hours, and I said this to you while we were watching it. I was like, only in America can a party get canceled because of traffic and our incessant car culture. Like, America is so obsessed with cars. Like, we don't have trains, we don't have buses, we don't have any sort of like meaningful network. So people have to rely on their cars. And I feel like the car is the biggest killer of Freaknik, ironically, because this is the birthplace of like parking lot pimping, like hollering at girls in the parking lot, a big part of Black American culture. But at the same time, it also killed it too. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I mean, definitely like the city had a lot of fault in that as well.
Hmm.
Cuz I mean, why did they do that? Because I think they were trying to also cause some chaos so that this event didn't continue, and also they would have like this sort of something to blame it on.
Hmm.
So I felt like the city was being a little bitch. But but yeah, that was crazy. And also like there's this lady and she talks about like what happened to her, and basically like they were in a traffic jam, and this was the last year it happened. So I think 96.
Hmm.
But yeah, she basically her friend like got out of the car and she was alone, and some guy got in the car and she fought him off, but then a bunch of other guys came in, like she said around 10 guys, and they dragged her out of the car and they ripped her clothes off
Hmm.
and sort of like harassed her, like, and hurt her physically.
Yeah.
And she ended up like with her titties out and her skirt like gone. And yeah, and she was like traumatized and stuff. And the also after that the city didn't really do any investigation on it. And yeah, so she was like, now I'm scared of crowds, like particularly black crowds, because my brothers did that to me and I'm sad and stuff like that. So I feel like that last year those sort of incidents happen as well.
Wow. Yeah, when that part of the movie came on, that was actually the hardest part for me to watch because I felt embarrassed as a man and as a black man. And I want to ask you something, Acti. Like a few weeks ago, I think we did a live stream about the Spanish couple who went to India and they got
Hmm.
attacked and one of the girls got raped. And I said very boldly in that video that black people, in America generally don't have a sexist culture, I would say, right? And I feel like Freaknik is the closest thing that we can get to sexism in our culture. But after seeing that part of the movie and also the movie in general, like, do you feel like I was wrong about that? Do you feel like, maybe I misrepresented? Like, how do you feel after seeing this?
No, Simon, I don't feel like you were wrong about it. Just because there's like a couple of incidents, it doesn't mean it's in the culture. And to be honest with you, it is in the culture of men in general, internationally, a little bit, you know. So, and black men are no exception.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, like I don't think it's in the culture because I have seen like, you know, a lot of, you know, great images of black women, powerful black women, you know, and those sort of like messages within the black culture. So
Hmm.
I do think it's a culture that like really puts their women on high standards.
Hmm.
But of course, there are like people or groups of people who are going to try to do stuff like this, or they're going to like try to be sexist and put, you know, black women down and stuff like that, like the whole passport bros and stuff. So like, you know, it doesn't reflect on all the black American culture.
Right, right. But I'm just saying, Freaknik was a big cultural event. And, the stories about Freaknik, like people getting, touched on, during the later Freakniks, and also like people having sex in the streets at other Freakniks and stuff like that. This has been percolating in our community for a while. Like before this documentary came out, growing up in Louisiana, we just heard rumors and stories and myths about what happened at Freaknik through like music and also from other forms of media or people that were older that went there and stuff like that. So like, I feel like Freaknik is possibly the only place you could point to in our culture where there is something like that. But after that, there's nothing much else. And
Yeah, but I don't know. I also think like that sort of thing escalated because of word of mouth
mhm,
also, because when you hear like, you know, because at the beginning it was very tasteful, you
mhm,
know, guys wearing funny t-shirts saying I work for sex,
mhm.
and I would work for sex and stuff like that, and like you know, funny flyers out of the cars like we're eating pussy.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
and girls are just like being, you know, girls, and they're
Yeah,
being like freaky and in a tasteful manner, you know, or at
yeah,
least like non-violent, like not violent, but I
yeah,
forgot the word, like non in a non-predatory way. Everyone was like, you know, chill about it, and
yeah.
everyone was just like enjoying the views. Even the people who were talking about like the girls then, they were
Mhm,
like saying, oh, you would see a girl, you know, do her thing and we just watch and it's her moment.
mhm,
That's what
mhm.
they, that's how they talked about the girls.
Yeah.
And but I think like, you know, those people going back and then they tell the stories and they maybe like exaggerated to some extent, and you see videos and stuff like that, and then the next people who are coming, I feel like maybe had certain expectations,
Mhm,
and especially the guys, maybe they were like, oh, like all of the girls are like just horny here and they're ready
mhm.
to give it up and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
Also,
think that created like a false image of the Freaknik.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And plus, also, what changed, like you said, like people were spreading the rumors about it throughout different places. Like, for example, one person got head in a hotel lobby. Next thing you know, the story travels, and it's like 20 girls gave head in a hotel lobby, right? Like, that's how
Yeah.
the story blows up. And, like, yeah, I think another thing that changed Freaknik at the end was like, other people coming in. Like, they started mentioning, like, there was a 35-year-old man at Freaknik. They started interviewing people, and it was like, no, I just drove down from Cincinnati, Ohio, or something. Like, I'm coming down here to Freaknik. Like, boy, you got a job, you got a wife. Like, how many people were creeping on their wives at Freaknik? That's wild.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But
I think it just got out of hand, like with people's image changed.
yeah. And shaking the cars too. Like at the end, they showed like guys running up to girls' cars wherever they saw a car full of girls and just shaking them and stuff like that. And then there were other
Yeah.
people that were interviewed, and it was like guys were like putting their hands through the moonroof and grabbing titties. I was like, boy, y'all wild. But that's what I'm saying. The movie doesn't talk about drugs. Like there's no way you can have a festival or party and you not talk about the drug part of it too. Like what was y'all on? You get what I'm saying? The movie is a bit tame. This is my criticism of this documentary because like nobody talked about weed or even alcohol. Like alcohol wasn't even brought up. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but maybe that's because like yes, those things were like in the festival, people got drunk and people got high and stuff like that. I mean, we see images of people like smoking weed and drinking beers and stuff, but maybe it didn't have that troubling effect. So
Mm,
then they didn't talk about it because it was
yeah.
like consumed at a normal level, like, or at least a level where you would expect it in a festival.
I guess so. I guess so. But Matt Villainy jumped into the comments. He said ATL crime rates continue to rise. Had my vehicle broken into and my MacBook stolen there. I never want to go to ATL again. Damn, that's a horrible experience. Sorry that happened to you, buddy. I've never been to Atlanta. I've only been in the airport. But after watching this film, would you want to visit Atlanta, acting?
Yeah, I always wanted to visit Atlanta. I don't know if it would be a place that I would live in just solely because of everyone talking about the crime in
Mm,
Atlanta. But I don't know. Like, it definitely looks like a very like cultural hub, hipstery, like just a lot of soul, like culture in
hmm.
it. So that's like the reason why I would want to visit.
Yeah, me too. Definitely want to visit Atlanta, but not during the summer. I heard the summers there are a monster, absolutely horrendous,
Mm.
humid. And one last thing I want to say about the middle of the film before we go. I think the most interesting thing about this is how quickly a word changed in one generation. Because like the '80s, they called freak just like partying, right? Like, oh, we're gonna freak out at the party, meaning like we're gonna have a good time and just go crazy. But freak by the next generation, by like the '80s babies who grew up and now they're in college, like okay, freak now means like we're getting nasty. You get what I'm saying now, and that's
Yeah.
the sort of definition that of freak that lasted today. And I just find that so interesting how one word can change its definition so quickly and bring on a new energy to an event. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And
Mm,
that's very interesting.
yeah. To wrap up, at the end of the documentary, basically there's this guy who buys the name Freaknik that was formerly owned by Cartoon Network because they made a cartoon series for Adult Swim called Freaknik. And this guy is like putting on this new sort of event called Freaknik. And it's more of a concert rather than a picnic. It's like a festival. He calls it Freaknik Festival, and he brings out artists. He also has like local businesses there and workshops for people there about health and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. More positive. And then what really bothered me is that everybody else hated on him. Like they asked Little John, "What do you think about the new Freaknik?" He's mad, said, "Fuck that shit." And then they asked Jermaine Dupri. He said, "It'll never be another Freaknik." Ask Uncle Luke. Fuck that guy. He don't know Freaknik. Like they all started hating on the boy. I'm like, dog. That's why we can't go nowhere. That's why we can't go. Why they hating on this young man? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think maybe they had the wrong idea because, yeah, like the guy was inspired from Freaknik, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he wanted to bring it back. And he says it in the documentary. He says, like, this is the new Freaknik.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he just wanted to create another opportunity for Black people to gather around together and enjoy, enjoy themselves. But he didn't want it to be like Freaknik because Freaknik sort of ended badly,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But it was definitely inspired by it, like the name. But
Yeah.
maybe they thought like he was trying to just recreate it again, and
Mm-hmm.
they think probably like you can't recreate it again because people are not the same. People,
Yeah.
care about social media. They're always on their phones and stuff like that. So you cannot have that ever again.
Plus, the women don't look the same. Like the women in the early Freakniks, they were '90s fine. These new girls look like linebackers. My God, when they showed them new girls twerking, that was not the same. It was not the same feeling. I said, get off the stage. I said, ma'am, please,
I
please,
mean,
ma'am.
yeah. Now they also did that too. If you remember, this lady who was like just giving interviews about Freaknik, she said like everything we had back then was natural. So if you put on a pair of booty shorts and you looking fine, it's all natural and it's all
Hmm.
like Black excellence. And
Hmm.
now everyone has a BBL.
Exactly, exactly. Right?
And
Like,
like all the white girls are gonna show up with their BBLs and boob jobs, and they're gonna be twerking too.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, yeah, the Freaknik nowadays, I feel like the Freaknik, if they did it in 2024, will be hella superficial. Everybody there is just posing for likes. Half of the time they're on their phone. They're not talking to people. Somebody's gonna be in there trying to like get people to download his mixtape. Some other girl is gonna be trying to get more followers for her OnlyFans or something like that. Like it's just gonna be a business thing, you know, and it's not fun like how the original Freaknik was when everybody wasn't an entrepreneur or or some sort of social media star. You get what I'm saying?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, even in the footages that they were showing from the new Freaknik, it was like there was like three guys lined up and they were getting their photos taken.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's not it. That's not it, buddy. But you know, maybe there is something happening right now. This is the thing. I wish in these movies they talked about like other events that are happening right now that are cool underground, where people are doing them organically, and it has that same spirit and vibe. You know, because I'm pretty sure there is like some Black college kid event or some other young people event that they're doing. You know, that has that same spirit and energy that Freaknik has, but they never get the shine. And maybe they shouldn't get the shine because we don't want people to blow up the spot.
yeah, maybe. I mean, they could do like a real throwback, you know? It's going to be a theme party
Hmm.
cookout. So everybody has to like wear 80s, 90s aesthetic and leave your phones at home and grab your like vintage cameras.
Vintage
So,
kid.
like phones should be forbidden
Yeah,
or you can only bring flip phones.
yeah,
Flip
yeah,
phones. So
yeah.
like, just the whole real experience.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. But yeah, overall, this was a cool documentary. It's if you go into this with an open mind, you'll love it. Also, you know, if you go in this and you love Black people, love learning about Black culture, interesting parts of our history, this is definitely, I think, like a must watch. Is it perfect? No. Did they skim over a lot of things? Yeah. Could it have been longer? I think honestly, this could have been a 2 hour doc, so they could have gone more into detail about the history of Atlanta, because Atlanta actually has a very deep and racist history in the South. We'll never forget, you know, Sherman marched down, I believe, to Atlanta and burnt it all to the ground when the Confederates didn't want to give up. And in Atlanta, there was also a lot of slavery that happened there. Jim Crow was brutal there. Like, it would be interesting if they spoke about how Atlanta came to become this Black Mecca, too. So that could have been added at the beginning. But I know that this is like pop doc. They just want it to be easily digestible. But I feel like maybe a deeper dive, too, would have been cool, too. So, you know, it's a cool doc to check out. I think it's worth a watch. So I'm going to give it a solid 8.5.
Yeah, yeah. Same for me. I would give it an 8.5.
All right. All right. Well, shall we wrap it up here?
Yep.
All right, so this has been episode 31 of Simon and Acting Movie Reviews. Stay tuned for the next one. We're going to be doing The Creator tomorrow with my guy, Matt Villainy, and we're going to chop it up about that film. You can find the link in my Twitter section, in my feed, and stay tuned for more. Peace.